Welcome to Brainfood for the Good Life, serving up fresh helpings of wisdom, courage, and other spiritual fruits for your personal growth and healing. Our host is Dr. Paul Schmidt, psychologist-life coach in Louisville and Lexington, Kentucky, and online at mynewlife.com. There, you'll find blog posts on each of the 10 topics he'll be covering in this podcast series. Soon, Dr. Schmidt will be sharing the audio versions of his 2 published books, Coping with Difficult People and Growing Your Love Life. Now, here's Dr. Schmidt helping to set you free from the pressures you might be feeling from any emotions, habits, or relationships that have given you trouble. Stay tuned for part 1 of this 3-part series.
I'm Dr. Paul Schmidt, licensed clinical psychologist, PhD, internationally certified sex addiction therapist, CSAT. Now, this podcast is made to help those who can't come see me learn how to recover, and to help those who might come see me figure out if they want to, and to help those of you who are seeing me hear these major ideas over and over through repetition so you can absorb them and replace your addictive thoughts. It will be much easier to understand and apply these ideas if you've heard them discussed with me or others in person, or if you have read more information about them. I hope this podcast will help you progress quicker so that I can outgrow more quickly the regularly scheduled portion of my job with you. I also hope it will help everyone who hears this understand sexual addictions so well that they can avoid getting any further entangled with one. Now, these tips are insights and suggestions that will tip your scales over from acting out to sobriety and from freaking out to serenity. Now, at the end of each of these 30 tips, you will hear a bell or 2 or 3 like this. The number of bells will indicate the number of articles I have written on this tip to give out as handouts to my clients, usually 2 or 3 pages each, double-spaced, so they can write in their own thoughts beside mine. All these articles will help explain how to understand and apply each of the 30 insights and suggestions. So if you're ready, let's go. Tip number 1, choose one or more models to help you understand your addiction and take responsibility for it. You take responsibility when you make a commitment to seek sobriety, serenity, healing, and recovery. You might choose to call your problem a bad habit, an addiction, a disease, a sin, or perhaps a post-traumatic stress disorder. But each of these has its own plans for recovery, its own techniques, and its own healing communities. 2, see how the Bible explains sexual addiction. Now, those who understand the Bible as God's inspired words for our lives can study 25 scriptures I've explained from the Old and New Testaments. These passages will help you see sexual misconduct the way God does and show you the harmful effects that it has on you and your loved ones, both now and down the road. And you can see here also how your sexual problems can be prevented and healed. 3, understand how you got this addiction and how it gets you. We develop addictions when our lives are too painful and we have no way to express our hurt to anybody who would understand or help us. Often the hurts come from the neglect, rejection, abuse, or trauma we've experienced growing up, or from a home where addictions, enabling, and denial were modeled. Addictions serve as pain-killing escapes from relationships and responsibilities that we find overwhelming. A major time saver and provider of insight and structure and information is the Sexual Dependency Inventory, which is a test you can take online. It gives 35 pages of personal feedback for you. Number 4, understand why the internet is such a powerfully addictive experience for sex addicts. It is a source of pornographic pictures, videos, cartoons, chat, sexting, webcamming, and hookup sites and apps, among other things. It is addictive, especially because of the 5 A's that it gets on your report card. And here they are. It seems so accessible, so affordable, so anonymous, so adaptable to your tastes, and the big A is that it seems always accepting, as if it could never reject you. But all this is an illusion. The truth is that it only seems accessible, but realize you are also accessible to it. It only seems affordable, because it is at first, but not for long. It only seems anonymous. It is at first, but not for long. And it only seems adaptable to your tastes, but you will adapt to it even more than it will adapt to you. And it only seems to be accepting. Thing is, it makes your family reject you. And that is way worse. So the deep, dark web gets very dangerous and expensive going down there. And it gives the false illusion of nothing being traceable down there, but we are learning that everything now is traceable eventually. And it is especially damaging to go online for a fix, because your loved ones will believe that they can't trust you to go online anymore, and so you won't even be trusted in your own home. Why? Well, because you can always have something going that they don't know about. Another device or another app or another account, which makes the temptation to start hiding things online again almost irresistible. Five, learn to identify the many types of addictive and dysfunctional sexual behaviors. You may think you will only do 1 or 2 of these, but harboring any one of these really greases the slides for all the others. They include pornography, role exploitation, buying, selling, trading sex, pain exchange, fetishes, voyeurism, exposing yourself, and many varieties of shutting down. These shutting down behaviors include anorexia, sexual anorexia, social phobias, avoiding marital communication, avoiding conflict, and porn-induced erectile dysfunction. 6, addictions are not cured, but rather strangely fueled by things that you think would help. Addictions are actually fueled by shame, by staying busy, escaping to another addiction, by stuffing down feelings and impulses, and by people trying to help you with your responsibilities and cover-ups. And addictions are also fueled by trauma. You need to learn the 10 different ways that experiences of overwhelming trauma can shape addictive behavior. Big connection. That's why my training's from the International Institute for Trauma and Addictions Professionals. Boy, do they go together. 7, loved ones often do your recovery more harm than good when they try to help you. Nobody can successfully take responsibility for your feelings or actions except you. And the same is true for your spouse. Most efforts to help your recovery are counterproductive because they essentially take onto themselves some of the responsibilities that you haven't taken for your behavior. Now, the many teaching tools I have for wives, and yes, I'm going to assume the spouse is a wife because the overwhelming majority, certainly of my clients, are males. If you're a female sex addict, I would suggest getting a female sex addict counselor. And most of the CSATs are females. One of the many teaching tools I have for wives shows them 12 different ways that they can enable or empower your addiction by trying to figure it out or fix it. And these include such common mistakes as bargaining with you, blaming, excusing you, guilt-tripping you, threatening, or checking up on you. These don't help. I've identified 9 things that they can do that will help, but mostly these boil down to disengaging from you and taking better care of themselves and their responsibilities, not yours. 8. Feel your fears and doubts and guilt, and don't download your pain onto your wife. When questioned about your behavior or your thoughts or feelings, the first instinct is to kill the messenger so you don't have to deal with the message. If you can get her to head off down the rabbit trail of checking her motives or her reality, you're temporarily off the hook. But she is hurt way more than you can know. Ooh, boy. Forcing her to doubt her instincts, her loyalty, or her mental health cuts into the very heart of her identity as a person, her security on earth, and her self-worth as a human being. So this does major damage to your wife. And so does keeping her in doubt about whether you have infected her with some STD, or if your stressed finances might be somewhat her fault. All this, plus the fear of your anger spilling over into domestic violence, is traumatizing for her and makes her feel like and believe that she is crazy. So admit that you are the sick one with the hidden addiction and she's the one who has healthy relationships. Now, I'm not saying she's all healthy and she has no problem with the finances, but don't put it all on her. Number 9, know how to identify the 10 diagnostic signs for any addiction. They are lack of impulse control, plans for your episodes getting broken, failed efforts to stop altogether, major time loss from acting out, mental preoccupation, irresponsibility, relationship problems, relationship dropout, deterioration of your moral standards. It takes more and more and more to get off things you said you'd never do. There you go. And emotional withdrawal symptoms when you're acting out. And when it gets frustrated, you can't act out. Huge mood changes. Having 3 or more of these 10 signs, just 3, constitutes an addiction. And that's not just sex addiction. That's alcohol addiction or anything else. That's the standard. Check yourself out. 10, choose and coordinate your own recovery team. Any program of recovery includes the 4 key elements of principles, people, prayers, and practices. That's things to do. Now, it takes all 4. You can't just get an education from the principles or get a social club with the people. All 4 of them are there in religion. They're all there in 12-step recovery, and they're there in good professional counseling. But all 4 are required to rewire and retrain the brain because, remember, addiction is a brain disorder.
Well, that's it for today. You can learn more from Dr. Schmidt's blog post on this subject at mynewlife.com. Tune in next week for part 2 of this 3-part series. While you were listening today, if you thought of someone who could use what you've heard here, we hope you will share this podcast and blog post with them. Until next time, may God bless you as you retrain your brain to keep walking straight into the good life.